It's 6:31. Let's call the meeting to order. We do have a 1, 2, hey, Cohen. Jimmy. Okay. So if we please stand and have the pledge. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Lord, we just ask that you help us to make good decisions tonight, Lord, and be with everyone that's here and get them home safely after the meeting. And Lord, help us to make good decisions for the kids and the staff at Gatesville ISD. And Lord, we're appreciative of so many good things this year, the new high school, and we just ask finally that you be with any of our staff or students who have health issues or health concerns, and help put your healing hand on them. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Barry. Public comments?
I don't think anyone signed up.
Nobody signed up, did they, Tim? Going to the resolution of the board regarding ESER 3 and policy. CD local.
How are y'all
Dr.
doing?
Sanderson.
They said, let's make the new guy go very first. Absolutely first off, before the consent agenda. I have a couple of things two items, I guess, to discuss tonight. And you've probably heard a lot about all these grants, federal grants that schools get to apply for every year, and the more that are available this year. And so, due to the number of these grants and the number of public notice requirements that come along with these grants, the TEA recommends that school districts develop a local board policy to address how the district will provide these required public notices regarding the grants and the awards. One of the reasons auditors may request documentation of our policies and procedures, and this resolution will help us maintain consistency across all of these grant programs. This resolution specifically defines how Gatesville ISD will meet the requirements of public notice. Summary of the resolution is we will provide public notice of federal grant applications through an information item at a board meeting and by publishing information on the district website in order to provide opportunities for public input as required by law or the granting agency. And I don't know if it's my recommendation, I guess it's my recommendation that the board adopts, or I don't know the right wording, the resolution so that we can continue to annually apply for funds through various federal grant programs.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion? Jimmy, second. Linda, any questions for Easy? Here comes Mr. Alderson. Okay. Any questions? We're waiting for you, Charles.
Sorry guys, it's hay season.
Come on
I assure
in.
you.
I promise it's cooler in here.
Yes, it is. I guarantee you it's hot outside.
We have a recommendation by Dr. Sanderson for the board to adopt the resolution so we can continue to annually apply for funds through various federal grants.
Okay.
And we've had a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you, sir.
So now that we have the resolution, I can make a public notice. So which is the next agenda item. It's an information item specifically, but it's to provide information, or this information item is to provide public notice of Gatesville ISD's intent to apply for the ESER 3 grant. And we will also continue to apply for funds through ESSA and Carl Perkins annually. And one thing that's not noted in the brief description is ESER 2 has also been made available since I wrote this up. And so that's also a grant that we will apply for at some point. And we will apply for this ESER 3 grant from the Texas Education Agency based on funds they received from the American Rescue Plan, the ARP. And that plan is for the Elementary and Secondary Schools Emergency Relief Fund, which is abbreviated ESER. And this is the third grant in that process. The total funding that Gatesville ISD is eligible to receive is $3.8 million. TEA will release 2/3 of these funds, just over $2.5 million, after we complete the required application and submit a safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services plan. The additional 1/3 of these funds are scheduled to be released at a later date once TEA receives approval from the federal granting agency. It is important for us, and especially you guys as board members, to remember to note 20% of these funds must address learning loss and the academic impact of the loss of instructional time. And we also as a district understand these funds are part of a specific ESSER 3 grant, and we cannot assume that the state will continue to provide replacement state funds in future years. The use of these funds for ongoing purposes could result in funding deficits in future years after the funding expires on September 30th, 2024.
That's a polite way of saying it may not last forever.
Yeah. So they've been very specific about plan to spend it. It's not going to continue. Don't expect it to be there forever. One of the things, part of this is a plan of use. How are we going to use the funds? And we're in that process right now of applying. We hope to use these funds to address learning loss by funding reading academies, phonics curriculum, science equipment, to replace and upgrade Chromebooks, to fund summer school, extended learning in the summer, and social, emotional, mental health personnel and curriculum. These grants will also allow us to focus on improved air quality and maintaining effective public health practices with items like new HVA systems, possibly water fountains, and even buses with more seating and better AC systems themselves. That's kind of an information item, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have over that, because I'm specifically knee deep in learning this process and going through it, and those are two things that I was required to do so that we can continue with the application and get that submitted.
Tentatively, we've already scheduled 3 new school buses with it. So we're excited about that, because buses are expensive. I mean, they're $100,000 a piece, and this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to kind of get caught up on having new buses with better air conditioning and things like that. But like Yancy said, it'll pay for salaries on interventionists and all kinds of good things. So we're excited.
And I normally won't read word for word everything, but there's a lot tied to this, so I wanted to make sure I covered it all specifically.
Is the decision-making process on how you expend the funds one of those where you have a lot of the people in the district come together and discuss their needs?
Stakeholder input is an important part of that, and we sent a survey out earlier in the summer, and we had included that in our original scheduled DEIC meeting earlier in the summer as well. We had about 8 students involved in that as well.
So teachers get to say what they need, principals say what they need, transportation director says what he needs.
Yeah.
Everybody gets to just,
That is part of the process, yes.
Okay.
It's amazing how quickly $3.8 million can be spent. The kids, though, had good ideas. Those 6th or 8 kids that were at that meeting, they were very astute and paying attention and had really very mature answers.
What were some of their ideas?
You guys help me remember what all they said.
They were very aware of the social emotional piece
Yeah.
in supporting the counselors at different campuses and all of the need that COVID has caused to their peers, I guess. That was one of their big concerns.
That's what I was wondering about, what you've talked about as far as mental health help.
Yeah. They didn't have anything specific, but they did
That's
say
a big area.
counselors was their answer for that.
Yeah.
They were aware of that.
Do y'all have, maybe, I don't know what you're spending on, an anger management team that some schools have in?
One of our social workers is certified in teaching anger management.
Okay.
And so some of the students that have a school community guidance center plan, part of that plan is to attend that anger management with that social worker.
And one of our kind of, I don't want to say pie in the sky, but ultimate, if everything worked out perfectly, we wanted to try to entice a couple more diagnosticians or LSSPs that could double as a behavior specialist for the district, because we have so many kids coming and that are already here that have emotional disturbances and behaviors that go along with that. So it's a problem that's on the rise in this country for sure.
Oh, I know. I work with some of them.
Oh yeah.
questions for me on the grant? Well, if you have any, shoot me an email, give me a call. I'll be happy to answer your questions. And that's just an information item on that last one.
So you get a new job and you have $3.5 million to spend.
I don't know. I have to earn $3.5 million to fill the paperwork right so the district can spend it. That's a lot of pressure.
I know.
But I'm getting a lot of help, a lot of good help.
How many
Sure.
pages was the grant?
Actually, the application is not, they've streamlined it quite a bit because there's such a tight timeline on it. I was talking to Shane, another grant we apply for every year is the Perkins grant. And that application is about 3 times as long, and it's not even close to the same amount of money. So it's an interesting process.
Thank you.
I think the auditing is going to be a lot more than the application itself.
Well, thank you. If y'all have any more questions, let's call Dr. Sanderson.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, moving on, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Calvin, is there a second? I'll second it. Are there any questions or concerns about the consent agenda? Okay, all those in favor of approving, raise your hand. Is that everybody? Yes. Motion carries.
I will say that I used to enjoy hearing you give the vital signs report.
Me too, I like that.
Now that it's just a consent item, is there anything on there that we need to be?
Right. I'm glad you're looking at it.
Got some good
That's hard work.
Yeah.
You keep up with it very well, and I appreciate that.
As far as attendance, it's exempt this year anyway, am I correct? So,
Hold harmless.
yeah, it's a whole harmless deal, so.
We'll have to start back in earnest next year.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna move on to information items. Barrett?
Well, the first one, there's a simple one we do every summer. It's just the campus daily start and end times. And those start and end times are all the same, again, this year for the 5 campuses. But we added a couple of items there just for your information. One, the DAEP, the Discipline Alternative Education Program for the students who are, doing their education out there, is 8 to 3. And then the WINGS program, we're going to keep, mentioning that program that we're starting up to try to help with the credit recovery. That's 8 to 1. So they would eat lunch here and still accumulate enough minutes to satisfy those requirements. And so we have Laura Lamb, Lisa Haynes' replacement, has been watching these minutes carefully to make sure we have enough of everything to be kosher with the state. And so, again, this is just an information item, but did y'all have any questions about those start and end times?
No, but I have a question about the DA. How's that going? Have they got any?
The WINGS?
The WINGS.
We've had applications. I don't know if you guys have. I know that like Miss Heath at the high school was looking at applications and sifting through, and so they're looking at things like attendance and would they actually perform in the program, and so they're trying to vet through the process right now to get the kids ready. Remember, I think it's only going to have a maximum of about 10, I think, to start with, and then kind of go from there.
Do we have that many applications yet?
I don't know.
There's several applications. We're looking at those that are the closest to graduating.
I got you.
And so the fewest number of credits that you need to make up, we want to get those guys in and successfully on their way. And then we have others to fill it. I don't have a total number, but there was quite a few that they were looking at to see who ranks in that category of the fewest
I got you.
credits needed.
In our summer school, we had at least 3 seniors that have now earned enough credits to graduate in July. So there may be a couple others that are slowly plodding along, but summer school officially ended this past Thursday, and so, but a lot of them worked very diligently. We had a lot of kids up here. It was a lot of students at each campus, and so they're working.
Any more questions about that?
Start time, pre-K, 7:35. Isn't that awful early?
Yes, we had to, though, to stagger it with kindergarten. We did it last year like that, and it worked well.
Okay.
we worried a little bit about just the opening and the exit of the primary logistically, but it worked out. We didn't have a lot of transportation issues.
I guess I have a question, especially early in the year, over at intermediate, the pickup lines.
Yeah, it
When
backs
those
up.
cars backed up, clear out to Main Street and then nearly back to the red light. Is there any way we can make a double lane traffic or something over there?
We internally had 2 lanes of traffic going for a while. The police came by and said, can't do that. So, because we had 2 lines kind of doubled up going down, I guess it was Hornet Way, wasn't it? And one of our non-SRO police officers came down that road one day and said, don't do that. So,
And
it
usually
is
the
what it
traffic,
is.
the biggest problem is at the beginning.
Yeah.
After about 2 weeks, the parents realize they can ride a bus, or we'll come later, we don't have to wait in line for them. They know we're gonna keep the kids until they come through, so it does even out.
I think across the street too, where that comes out, don't they back up Main Street too?
Yeah, the first few days, it's always a getting accustomed experience, but if we can think of anything to help alleviate it, we will, but it's been
Can you turn the traffic and go back north?
It'd stack up on 36.
Yeah. Usually we watch it, if it's not cleared up by the, I don't know, usually it's the 4th or 5th day, it clears up pretty well. The novelty of bringing your child to school after about the 2nd or 3rd day wears off, and then it's kind of back to the buses and different things like that.
It takes about a week or so to get the bus routine going, and it gets faster.
Any more? Prom lock-in.
This next one was Mr. Alderson's idea. I thought it was a very good idea. Just a safety issue. You know, we have a lock-in after graduation to keep the kids off the streets, and so prom's another one that they have a late night of dancing at the venue, and then they're, you know, oftentimes out on the streets. And so we thought about, well, we could offer something fun for them then that night too. And I reached out to Bruce Toms with Urban Air, and he said, oh, sure, I can. I wanted to get with him early to reserve the venue. And so, you know, the seniors, they have a great time at Urban Air for the lock-in after graduation. I get tickled at seniors sometimes, you know, like when we had limited options this year for the senior trip, and we said it was going to be at, what was the bowling alley?
Main event.
Main event. It's bowling.
Bowling, then rock climbing, I think.
Just different
laser
things.
tag.
One senior said, we're not 9 years old anymore. This is, you know, but then they get there and they have a great time, you know, and so the same is true with a lot of things. It's time with your friends, you keep them safe. And so Bruce, I've reserved Bruce for those 2 events. And again, I've got the price listed there, which is not too bad considering how much he's got to get security. There's food there that's good for at least 100 kids. We also get a break on Texas Station. We've got that lined out for prom again next year. Texas Station turned out to be a great place for prom and 8th grade dance, by the way. It's that open air, it's a large area, and when they get tired of doing dancing, they go play cornhole and just different, you know, they're just kids. You know, they like to do some of those things still. And so that's kind of the schedule for next year. We've already got prom in the books and a couple of lock-ins. And
Now, who would be eligible to go to the prom lock-in? Just students?
we'll have to kind of narrow that to where, I guess, if you were in attendance, you know, because you can bring a partner. If you're a junior or senior, you can bring an underclassmen partner, I believe. So if you're a, you know, freshman, sophomore, if you were there, you could be invited. But we wouldn't open it up to the entire, all 9th, 10th, 11th, but just kids that went there.
Transportation, do we transport on buses?
We did, like for graduation, we have a couple of school buses waiting at the primary, and so.
So the cost is for 100.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, so we've got that down, and I gave Daryl forewarning so we could budget for it, but I agree with Charles, you know, even keeping 70 kids off the street late at night is a good thing. It's a good thing, just because bad things can happen.
Okay. Any more questions about that?
Great.
Mr. Frazier?
Daryl's up.
Come on down.
Good evening, Board. So we are on the budget update for 21-22. And you have Board of Trustees agenda item information, I guess, in your board book. So this is kind of a brief presentation. We are still working on the budget for next year. A lot to put together. Anytime you have a legislative session, that also adds to the complexity. We understand there could be some special sessions of the legislature that will be called by the governor, which will extend the process some more. Then we've had, a lot of these COVID monies coming in. Dr. Sanderson mentioned ESSER 3, and he briefly mentioned ESSER 2. The ESSER 2 grant is, our allotment on that one is $1.6 million. And that's the one that the state's going to play around a little bit, take their share of the pie by funding the whole harmless. So whatever it costs the state this year to do the whole harmless for Gatesville ISD, they're going to take that bill and take it out of the ESSER 2 funding. How much is going to be? Probably in the neighborhood at least of $500,000, which would be approximately the cost that the state incurred on behalf of Gatesville ISD to do the whole harmless, which enabled us to be able to receive our budgeted funding, even though our attendance was lower than projected. And all this is, of course, as a result of COVID, as it's played havoc with our society in general, pretty much, and schools also. We weren't impacted near as much as a lot of school districts across the nation. And so I'm very proud of the way that we pretty much stayed open. We held school in-house. Attendance wasn't that far off. And then now you've got the uncertainty of what's going to happen in the next, say, year or two, perhaps even 3. How long does it take for us to get back to normalcy? And this is one area where the ESSER funds, the 3.8 on ESSER 3 and the 1.6 on ESSER 2, are going to come in extremely handy, because there's going to be a pretty wide range of options for the school district to use those funds. I know they mentioned 20% earmarked for learning loss, and with what happened, there definitely is a learning loss from a lot of students who either didn't come to school or didn't do the work that they could have done. So we'll address all those issues that the government is wanting us to address. And at the same time, they're kind of throwing us a bone by helping us financially get over all this over up to a 3-year period. Because we have no idea still how's the attendance going to run next year when whole harmless is not there to, to pick up the pieces and to be our safety net. So all those things are in play as we put together our budget for next year. We are, he's already mentioned, Dr. Yancey has mentioned about the different items that we can possibly fund out of ESSER 3. There's also the ESSER 2 that we'll be applying for soon. And so there's, in terms of what do we budget next year to come out of ESSER 3, ESSER 2, some of the prior grant monies that we've already received that are sitting there in the bag. You got to be careful. We already have a number of federal grant programs, and you not necessarily want to jeopardize those, because we already have some staff allocated to some of those grants. So it's a big jigsaw puzzle in terms of how we're going to decide where to allocate all this. So the bottom line is it's going to take some of the pressure off of our next budget next year, and probably even the year after that for sure. What we do know about the budget is that we're going to have a pretty substantial amount of funds to be able to close the gap, so to speak, and we have the freedom to allocate a number of expenditures like the 3 buses. There's no need to put any budget money for buses next year. Those costs will be able to be allocated to the ESSER 3. We do know that the M&O tax rate is going to go down. We will not receive our final certified property values until usually about the third week in July, and that's when they're solidified, and that's what starts all the calculations, and that's what will start the calculation of our compressed rate. So the compressed M&O rate will go down several pennies from the current rate, so that's going to be a benefit to the local taxpayers. The preliminary property values, as I shared with you previously, have gone up about 9%. So the reduction in our M&O rate will kind of offset those property increases that notices that the property taxpayers have been receiving. The interest and sinking tax rate, INS, is also kind of fluctuating. All we need to set that rate at is what we need to fund the debt service next year. So I think we'll be proposing a reduction in the INS rate as well. As we know, with the property values increasing 9%, we're not going to be needing that much extra funds to fund the bond debt on the INS side. So we're looking at a reduction in the INS rate that we'll propose to you in July. The state funding appears to be increasing next year, $500,000, just on a kind of a preliminary look at state funding. Local taxes will increase about $200,000. This revenue growth, as I indicated before, will be offset by the projected increases in personnel compensation that we've awarded for next year. As you know, we've increased our teacher scale pretty good, and that also ricocheted down to other positions, aides, auxiliary workers, cafeteria workers, administrators. Pretty much everyone was affected by those raises. So that's kind of the status. All the departments have submitted their budgets to us. None have been approved at this point because we really need to put this whole thing together to see where we stand. We might be in a position to approve all of the budgets as pretty much has been turned in to us, but we won't know until we've really combed through them intensively and scrutinized them. A couple of them look like maybe a little bit higher than we'd like, so we'll take a look at those. But you can appreciate, I think, the complexity of putting the budget together, especially this year. And we will certainly do our best to get that done.
Two things I'd like to note is I walked the renovation about a couple hours ago, and it's fantastic. I mean, it's just beautiful. And so one of the things later tonight, we need to have probably a special board meeting at 5:30 at our next July meeting. Come an hour early and have a ribbon cutting and give you all a chance to walk it and look at it, and then that will kind of start the beginning of a lot of tours that Scott and the team can start showing the public through. But it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And even probably one of the places I was most proud of was the old cafeteria. That dingy, dank, dark, depressing, how's that for alliteration, Charles? Was just, I mean, it just looks fantastic. It really does. And so I think the public will be really proud of it. It doesn't look over the top. It does look modern. It looks nice. And I think the public will really be happy about it. And talk about great timing. I mean, the timing couldn't have been better as far as getting the bond passed, beating kind of the upheaval of like the construction costs and just all of that. So that was very fortunate. The second thing to just keep on your radar that we're going to keep kind of bringing up is that we want to keep squirreling away money more and more into the fund balance in the hopes of at one point funding some sort of upgrade to the field house. Speaking of bad, we're going to take a tour of that at some point, and it's bad. It's bad. And so that's not a huge project, but it doesn't require like a bond election type thing, but it's something we need to start saving up money to fix that up, because it needs to be upgraded. I mean, when your boys are getting shocked in the showers because the electrical wiring is touching some of the plumbing in the walls, it's time. It's time. So we got our money's worth out of it. That's the name of the game in Gatesville. Get your money's worth out of it, and then 50 years later, we'll finally, so it's gonna be time.
Dr. Barr's preparing you.
How long has that been?
The brick part is probably about the same time as the,
63,
yeah.
give or take a year.
Yeah. And so it leaks tremendously. The Big Ten part, the Big Ten building that was probably built more in the 80s, leaks. It's just.
You propose just to tear all that down and start over?
Yeah. 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 And again, it's just to feel, it doesn't need to be anything real fancy, but it needs to be inhabitable.
So you're thinking of a metal kind of thing?
It could be, yeah. Yeah, just metal, and sometimes it has some accents or whatnot, but we can make it look nicer, but they just need a room to be able to dress out and it not to be unsanitary. So
So when do you think this project will take place?
it's going to take some time to save up the money. So.
Let's get over the high school runoff first.
I was just saying.
Well, we don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
In the future.
How is the work?
I will take this opportunity to thank Scott Harper, who's kind of been our lead guy on this project. He's worked extremely hard to pull this whole thing together. He's kept all of us fully informed of, where we were at different stages of the project. And I don't know, Scott, you think maybe on time and on budget is still a possibility?
It is. It is a possibility.
How's the renovation of the other part going, the old part?
Well, we're getting to the floors. It's been painted, the new ceiling grid is put in. The floor company was there today finishing up the tech hallway, and now they're starting on the 96 hallway, the new hallway that is up there by the office. And so we're looking at a week and a half for them to finish that flooring, and then they move over and they finish up the renovation flooring. And so everything's gonna look nice and be tied together.
Great.
All I hear is the ribbon cutting. We're still in line for the ribbon cutting.
Yeah. We
That's the
keep
whole
pushing.
thing out there.
Masonic has brought some extra superintendents to work on site because there are different levels, different stages of the construction that's going on. And so they've really helped push to get to that deadline of July 26th. There's a few hiccups here and there, but not worth talking about. We're going to make July 26th a good ribbon cutting.
It's things like the water bottle fillers and it's like finishing things that may not be done, but as far as being able to hold school, it should be ready.
Cabinet door hinges.
Yeah.
Things like, small things sometimes. Like you may start school without the door on the cabinets in some cases. It's a major project and it's coming along really nice. Thank you, Scott, for all your work on it. Ready for the next?
Okay.
Is that me?
It's you, Gerald.
Okay,
Good job, Mr. Frazier.
thank you. All right, this time I'm asking for money.
Charles takes that back. Daryl said,
I'm gonna get ahead of Shane on this, asking for money bit.
Oh, that was Mr. Webb.
Yeah, you didn't get mine, you don't want to do anymore. Okay, so the healthcare rates are out. And they were pretty decent, really. They weren't, they could have been a whole lot worse. As it turned out, the rates averaged a -2% to 8% increase. So some dropped. The monthly range on the drops was -19 all the way up to 214. The estimated annual increase in the total premium is about $65,000 or 2.6%. I have a chart, which is pretty detailed, in your board book, but it actually goes back 3 years, so you kind of have a historical perspective on these healthcare rates and what has happened to them. You have each of these little blocks right here represents one of the healthcare policies.
It's not a smart board, Daryl.
It's not a smart board, I see that.
He keeps tapping it.
I'm thinking like it's not a smart superintendent.
Quit tapping it, Daryl.
I thought he was waiting.
I was trying to make it a little bit bigger. That's as big as we'll get, Daryl.
Okay. Scott and White. So this right here is the Scott and White plan. And right here is the number of participants. So like this current year, we have 174 of our total 322 employees that are on our healthcare plan that are on the Scott and White plan. And then you can see the different, like employee only, employee spouse, employee child, and family. So you have those 4 categories for each of these plans. Another plan is called Active Care. These are all TRS plans, by the way, the rest of them. The Active Care Premium Plus is very similar actually to the Scott and White because their new rates are, where is it here, 442? And it's the same, exact same with employee only on this Active Care Primary. Thought that was kind of interesting. In that group, we have 20 employees that are taking that insurance. The next biggest group is the Active Care Primary. There's 70 of those. And then the last group is the Active Care HD, high deductible, which is 58. And if they're going to take advantage of an HSA, which is the health savings account, and quite a few are taking advantage of those, then you have to take the Active Care HD. That's your only choice. So if you do the HSA, then this is what you have. So more than likely, that's probably how many folks are doing the HSAs, is the 58. And so as you see, this, whatever happens, this is the biggest group, and then this group is the second, third, and then there's a smaller group on the Active Care Primary. First Care is done away with. It was merged into Scott and White. And Active Care 2 is grandfathered in for those participants who wanted to stay in, but it's no longer accepting new applicants. And currently we have 0 that have stayed with that plan. So it kind of gives you an idea. These are your premiums for next year. And these are your annual premium increases. This will be your premium increases for next year. So these are some of the ones that were negative increases. And so your total group plan is like $65,000 for the entire thing for 2.6%. Now, you'll also see here, because we have been for several years now, benchmarking the amount that we contribute to the cheapest employee-only plan. So the cheapest plan 2 years ago was the Active Care HD. And then last year, they came up with this Active Care Primary right here. And it was a little cheaper because it went down to this, and the Active Care HD went up a little bit. So instead of doing this rate, in the last 2 years, this is the rate that we've been using for our employer contributions to the healthcare plan. Well, the 417 is what I'm proposing here tonight. It's a 31 increase. If you'll go over to the next page. The increase, 31 a month times 322 times 12 is 120,000 roughly, will be the cost to the school district to maintain health care for our employees at the cheapest employee-only plan that we have available. And that's what we're going to recommend to you tonight. To take care of our employees, continue to provide health care at the lowest employee-only rate possible, and just employee rate increase for that one plan. Now, if you go over to this page, so what's new and what's changing? Maybe if I could help you. Rotate.
Where's the rotate at?
You see rotate? Right here.
Oh, there it is.
Hey, how could we get this interactive? That'd be weird.
Yeah.
You would love it. What's this one? I can love present. All right. So here, no, that's not it. What's new and what's changing? I think it was maybe on above. Yeah, that's it right there. what's new and what's changing. Okay, so this chart, guys, is strictly the TRS plans. So TRS has all these plans, and then we have the Scott and White plan, which is not a TRS plan. So these are all the TRS plans, and it's given us last year's premium, next year's premium, the dollar change, like this TRS Active Care Primary, $31 increase, and let's see, scoot over a little bit.
Daryl is the worst Vanna White ever.
The worst Vanna White.
Let's see. Here we go.
All right, so this TRS Active Care Primary is the one that we have 70 employees in. So if you want to, of course you don't have hard copies anymore, do you? But anyway, that's the one that we have 70 employees. And then the TRX Active HD is one we have 58 employees. And then this one, we have 20 employees on this one. So what they're telling us is that these two plans, virtually no changes. And this plan, there were some changes to the deductibles. And I have this written down somewhere else. But this is the zero. So if an employee takes this plan and we contribute the minimum $417, this will cost them zero. TRS Active Care HD, this was going up $1, so they will pay $1 for this. And then this one, it will be a negative $3 on that one. So that's kind of the impact of the employees' shares and contribution on those. So now you can go to TRS Active Care Plan Highlights. We should have practiced this.
Yeah.
You need to tap there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Active Care Primary, this is the one that has 70 employees on this one. And basically no changes in the benefits. TRX Care Primary Plus, this one here has 20 staff. Their premium is going to go down $3, and virtually no changes in the benefits. The Active Care HD, for those that are in the healthcare savings funds accounts, this one's going up $1, and there have been some changes in here to their benefits. For instance, the individual deductible is going up $200 to $3,000 per individual. For a family, it's going up $400 up to $6,000. The co-insurance is going up 10% from 20 to 30, and the individual maximum out-of-pocket is going up $100 for individuals, $200 for family. Not a drastic increase, but this is the one that had the most, was the HD plan, had the most changes. So let's go over real quick to the last page, and I'll show you what happened to the, looks like this, Garrett. It's got the state of Texas out there. Rotate. I didn't even have to hit the screen. Yay, Barry. All right. So this is the Scott and White right here. No? Did I do that? So this is our Scott and White plan right here. And so what happened was the individual deductible went up $200 right here to $1,150, and the family deductible went up $600 to $3,450. And that's basically the only change, with the exception of down here under prescription drugs. Went up $50 to $200. And then on the generics, went up $5 right here. Went up to $10. So that's basically the one change. There's not a lot of changes in the benefits for the staff. And by, raising our contribution amount to this new amount, then they're not going to really have much of an increase at all. Maybe some of the ones that are on family, that's going to be a little increase. But the employee only would be, would be pretty substantial minor increase. Any questions about the healthcare plans? I know we love healthcare.
We just love it.
You gotta have healthcare.
Deductibles get higher.
It's an extremely important benefit for our employees. They really rely on it. And especially, those that are lower salaried, lower paid. Healthcare can be almost exorbitant to those guys. So our recommendation from the GISD management is that we increase the employer contribution $31 a month to $417, starting September of 2021.
You've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion? Charlie? A second? Jimmy? Any more questions? You're right, Mr. Frazier. That's a wonderful benefit, and it's nice, and I'm proud that
On
we're
behalf of the
gonna
staff,
do
thank you
this.
for that
Yeah.
commitment. Appreciate it.
Okay, all those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Webb?
Okay tonight. The first item we've got is the minimum grade requirements for students involved in UIL extracurricular activities. For students that are involved in advanced courses such as pre-AP, AP, dual credit, college level courses that we either offer through GHS or through Texas Virtual School Network if we don't have that class. And we've done this for the past several years, but just a couple of years ago we made a recommendation that that students had to maintain at least a 60 or above in those courses in order to maintain their eligibility. Before that, there wasn't a minimum grade requirement that we had set, but we had changed that to a 60 a few years ago. And so we've done that again, and here's a list of all of our courses that we may or may not offer, but this is a good exhaustive list. And again, we do not have to submit this to UIL. It's just something that we simply have to keep on file. Does anybody have any questions about these courses or the minimum grade requirements for students involved in extracurricular activities through UIL?
Does it look like it?
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and make the recommendation. Recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the proposal that student athletes maintain a minimum of a 60 average in all advanced courses to be considered passing with regard to the UIL no pass, no play rule.
And not just athletes?
Correct. It's for
Yeah.
anyone that's involved in UIL activities.
Everybody. Okay.
So band, choir,
Yeah.
any of it.
Linda,
I'll
you make
make
the
the
motion.
motion.
Second? Calvin, is your hand raised?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Calvin? Any more questions? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Webb. You're up.
All right.
He set you up for this next one.
Onyx.
I'm sorry.
He lulls you to a false sense of security.
And I put the summary in there for this next one. You know, several years ago we made the switch to go to a more balanced literacy approach, and you know, we had purchased new curriculum K through 6 called Fountain Spinell Classroom, and it's a more level literacy approach with station work and guided reading and all those things like that, and it has a phonics piece in it as well. But finding a one-stop shop that just meets the needs of everyone is really hard. And if you were to probably ask some of our dyslexia specialists, our reading interventionists, something they feel that may be a little bit of a struggle is phonics. And so we do have Fountas and Pinnell phonics, but it's not it's more of an implicit, it's probably more geared to maybe students that aren't struggling to read. And so they really feel that we need a more structured approach when it comes to phonics. And so, the Fountas Pinnell is not as an explicit structured program. And so, in looking at this, we've kind of have seen an increased number of students that are qualifying for dyslexia. And we think that maybe this could be a phonics-related problem. And, your population should probably be about 10 to 15%. Your students should be in dyslexia, but in some of our grades, we may be sitting around 20 to 25%. And so maybe a more structured approach might be a better way to meeting the needs of all of our students. And so it's kind of finding that balance with a more structured approach and balanced literacy, and how we can meet the needs of all of our students. And so they really feel like maybe it could be a phonics issue more in our K through 2 grades, because if you look at our reading levels, we've kind of plateaued and we've kind of sat there. And so we think this could be a reason of why we're just kind of stuck where we are and we're not seeing that continued growth. And so we've been doing a lot of work, a lot of research, met with a group of teachers, instructional coaches, administrators a few weeks ago. I had a small group, reading interventionists, IC, go with me to Copper's Cove to visit with them and talk with them about what they're doing phonics-wise. And we also think, too, because we're about to start these reading academies, it's called the Science of Reading, that it may kind of push back a little bit about what we're doing in the classroom. And so we want to kind of be more prepared as we go into these reading academies, because we think that it may kind of challenge a little bit of what we're doing or how we're providing maybe some phonics instruction. And but we went to go visit with them, and they said that they were about where we were a year ago. And so they've really taken a hard look at their phonics. And so this is kind of, after talking with all those groups, this is kind of the recommendation that's come out of it, that we need, not only do we need phonics, but we need a phonological awareness program, but also a phonics. And so you need both components. And so we've already looked at a phonological awareness piece, and then this would be the phonics. To go along with our Fountas and Pinnell classroom that we're already using with our leveled readers and our guided reading and things like that. Does anybody have any questions at all?
Could this come out of your IMA account?
It could, but we're going to use this out of our ESSER, out of that 3.8 million. It's about for us K through 2. It's going to be K through 3. It's going to be almost $100,000. It's extensive professional development. They'll come 4 times a year. They'll do an opening kickoff the first of the year, and then they'll come in person. They'll send a person for each grade level, for kinder, first, second, and third, for 4 times throughout the year to kind of work through some of the issues or questions that we may have. So an extensive part of this is the professional development, and you see that there on the quote back there. I mean, it is an expensive program, but having these funds right now would really benefit. But yes, Mr. Alderson, we could use IMA.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah, we can use
How many
ESSER.
people are you looking at?
K through 3, well, this is 10 kindergarten teachers, 10 first grade teachers, 10 second grade teachers, 5 third grade because they're departmentalized in third grade, and then interventionists. We have an interventionist at primary, and we have 4 interventionists at elementary. So it's going to serve about 40 teachers and about about 800 plus students.
Will this take the place of a dyslexia lab in K through 3?
It won't take place in the dyslexia lab, but it'll have some intervention pieces that they'll be able to use also.
So in a 3rd grade classroom, say for example, how long is the English period?
So their reading language arts block is about 120 to 130 minutes. I'm trying to remember exactly how theirs is.
And
Kindergarten-
currently, how much of that is
Kid-
spent on phonics?
Yeah, kindergarten's longer. Will be it'll be about probably 35 to 40 minutes of it will be spent on phonics.
Okay, so it'd be like a 35-minute drill every day,
Yeah.
and then they'll move
You'll
into
have the
fountains
phonological
canal.
awareness piece, which will be kind of a carpet, just teacher, no student material. But then the actual phonics piece will be actual student books. It'll have there's a handwriting component in it. They have dry erase boards with it.
So it's materials that are hand used, not a keyboard, not technology.
Correct. Yeah, there will be student materials that go with. So there will be a cost associated each year, but it will be very minimal. This is the big piece.
Is there not something for 4th and 5th?
It doesn't go that high.
Doesn't?
Matter of fact, it really doesn't even go as high as 3rd. But those they recommend to go ahead and purchasing it. You just start 3rd graders on a later lesson because they may not have that strong foundation.
Because the 4th and 5th and 6th won't have that foundation.
Right, they'll still use the phonics word study that we have
That
through
comes
Fountain
from
Spinel. It's just not
okay.
as an explicit of a structure of a program.
Okay.
See, for years, our framework was an hour of reading instruction, where you get guided reading, and then we focused on the next piece, an hour of writing, and then we always said 20 minutes of phonics. Well, really, this is more, I think we have pinpointed that the phonics was kind of getting a little bit lost in the shuffle. We were so focused on reading, writing, and phonics.
Yeah.
And it really, phonics probably unlocks the rest of it.
Well, and I think too, what's happening is we go into a guided reading group and we're doing a level reader. We may be on an A or a B or a C, and it's a predictive text that the kid can kind of predict because they can look at the pictures and they can know the words from that. And so would be more like decodables, and actually teaching kids how to read is exposed. Sometimes I guess they think it may be more like a guessing sometimes. When you look at guided reader LLI, you give a book introduction, and so when you look at reading comprehension, it can, kids can kind of really gauge that. But this is actually teaching the more phonics, like where they teach them how to sound out a more difficult word.
This is $97,890.
Yes, sir. Yes.
I noticed down at the bottom of the last sheet said that's not a formal quote. So how firm is that number?
Where does it say this is not a formal quote?
Well, at the very, very bottom of the last sheet, it says this pricing information was sent in response to a request from the district regarding Wilson programs. It does not constitute or represent a proposal to the district or an offer for service or a formal quote.
Yeah. No, this is a formal quote from them. I've been on the phone with them for 2 weeks, going back and forth with their sales rep. I didn't even see that, but this is a formal quote.
There's a beginning of another sentence there, but it's not complete. And that kind of concerns me. It is sent,
Yeah.
and then it's just blank.
Well, what I will guarantee is I won't go over $100,000 on it. So.
That's the Shane guarantee.
I mean, that's a lot of money.
Oh yeah,
With
it's a lot of money. I mean, the materials are a lot. We've spent a lot of money reading materials throughout the past several years. But when you look at the needs of our students, reading's the basis of everything.
Yeah. I'm for it, but it bothers me that this isn't, we're talking about a large number that's not a formal quote from their document,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been on the phone with her quite extensively. I don't know why it says that, but this is.
Okay.
I feel like this is a good quote.
Well, my feeling is phonics is the big key to learning to read in your elementary years.
Well,
And once they learn that, when you get in your advanced high school classes, that's the key to unlocking some of those words.
well, and they've changed like dyslexia criteria, and so you can almost pick out any of this might qualify as dyslexic, you know, and so it's they've changed a lot of that. So we've just got to find some ways to help our kids. The way I see it is, I think when you look at Fountain Spinell, is probably more geared to probably our upper half of kids, and so our kids who don't need as much support in reading, and we need to hit all groups of kids when we're looking at the phonics instruction.
One thing from the financial perspective is that Shane and all of us, we do haggle with the salespeople. You know, we don't just accept the first, you know, we'll tell them that's too expensive, you know, and try to work with them as far as getting it down. So.
Yeah, that's what first thing I asked her. I said, "Is this your price?" Because a lot of these companies are very proud of their pricing. I said, "Is your internet pricing the price?" And yes, it is. Like they don't. Sometimes on these reading programs like Fountain Spinell, like they're not worried about. You know, they're very proud of their product. And
I just have two questions. Are a lot of the EEs in K through 3 phonics related?
what do you mean EEs? The
Teaks.
the TEAKs.
Teaks now.
Yeah,
Essential
they're
elements has gone to TEAKs.
They're what?
Essential elements have changed to TEAKs.
yeah.
Are there a lot of them phonics related?
The TEAKs?
Yes.
No, they're not. A lot of them are phonics related, but their phonics are in their TEAKs.
Okay. Just a caution is that you're going to be testing in 3rd grade, not this material you're buying, but the teaks,
Right.
which is the fountas and Pinel.
Yeah, this would just be to help.
My
kids
only
read
concern is that the phonics takes over the reading program. And I'm just saying that with tongue in cheek as an old, worn out principle. Just like when we did reading, what was that reading program we did?
Reading Street?
No.
Or AR?
AR. AR was designed to be a rewards program,
Yeah.
and it turns out if you're real careful, okay, my child, I'll get a call from a parent and say my child is not passing reading, and they're saying they don't have enough AR points,
Because
and you go,
graded,
what?
They're getting graded
That's
off
supposed
of
to
it.
be a reward program, but just as long as we make sure that this doesn't become the curriculum.
Yeah. No, it won't be. I mean, the TEAKS resource system.
It
is
won't
our-
be if you
TEAKS resource system is our curriculum.
start seeing your lesson plans in there. That phonics takes almost the whole time.
Yeah. No, we have to stay on top of it. The guided reading, the literacy stations, the
Or it'll kill you at
handwriting.
3rd grade star. Yeah, okay.
Any other questions?
Okay. You want to recommend?
So I'm recommending to the board that we approve the purchase of foundations for the grades kindergarten through 3rd grade for a phonics program.
Okay. Is there a motion? Calvin, Linda seconds. Any more questions?
That includes the Shane Webb guarantee of the price.
It includes the Shane Webb guarantee price. If it goes over 100,000,
It comes out of your pocket.
she's changing this on me, then I will come back to you.
I just say take it out of your salary.
You'll take it out. It's a lot of money.
Okay, all
It's a
those
lot of
in favor,
money.
raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you
Thanks,
guys.
And we are going to talk about property.
Yes, I have the last few items here. The first one is talking about the old rest home. So back in, I guess it was 2016, the district was gifted the rest home. And so it has been useful for storage, especially during this high school renovation. But we put it up for a bid, I guess a year or so ago, and Mr. Layla, local businessman, was one of, I guess the only one that officially put in a bid. And he has since then circled back every 6 or so months, showing reoccurring interest, which is good for us. And so he didn't want to seek money into it, but proposed most recently a land swap. And so he owns a little home on 2534 East Main. So right there between the car wash, you got Dwight's, you got the car wash, and there's a house. And that little piece of property butts up to Peanut Blanchard's Automotive. If that house were gone, it'd be a direct shoot from Peanut's shop to Main Street. And so I proposed to Andy, would he be willing to clear that off? I don't want that old home. It's 1955, I believe was when it was built. It's on 3.35 acres. I looked up on CAD its value there, and so it does hold some value for us as far as just logistically. You could have another outlet from the Peanut shop to Main Street, and the rest home is quickly becoming like the rotunda. And we do not want another rotunda in this town. And so if someone has an idea for it, whether it be Andy said it could be a restaurant, it might be a hotel, it might be an office suite, he does not know. He's had his environmental specialist have walked it with us to talk about asbestos and things like that, but I have our attorney looking at if you guys give the approval tonight to go forward with the land swap. Okay, you take the rest home, we'll take the little piece of green property without the building. We want that demolished and removed first. Our lawyer would write that up to where it says just that. And so my recommendation tonight would be to allow me to enter into that swap, and I would come back again with the contract to let y'all look at it, but to go ahead and get the ball rolling. Mr. Layla seems interested in doing that, so I think now that the renovation is nearing an end, we ought to try to get rid of it.
The only disadvantage is that big gully that goes between our property line and that
boutique.
Yeah, you'd have to have a
Little bridge.
bridge over it.
Yeah, possibly.
Landfill,
Yeah.
drain tubes.
Yeah.
Well, I'm certainly for dumping
Yeah.
that thing in.
Well, they get it on the tax rolls too.
That's
Talk
right.
about that.
That's right.
And,
He can
the
do
letter-
something with it.
You want to talk about the letter that you wrote?
Oh, yes, another thing, to kind of get the ball rolling, he went and talked with Mr. Perry and Mr. Ortega, and he needed us to help him get the old nursing home reclassified as a business commercial property as opposed to what they call a community facility. That would help him do something with it. And so I attached that letter that will go to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and I think that'll be at the July meeting that they'll go over that and hopefully approve that. So that would be another step closer to helping him do something with it.
And Andy's willing to pay all the closing costs for the transaction.
That's something we would need to put in the, last time we had a contract proposed for it, and he was gonna, I can't remember the exact dollar amount, but it also included like the closing and things like that, so.
That's his share and our share,
Yeah,
clearly stated in
yeah,
there.
because we want to make sure that we write the contract.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so you've made your recommendation.
I'll make a motion
Mhm.
for it.
Charles, and seconded with Jimmy, by Jimmy. Any more questions about the property swap? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Barrett.
We have to get that hopefully done eventually.
Homeschool students.
The next one is all these legislative things coming down the pipeline that we're trying to look at, and we looked at this next one with the an open mind to try to see, what are they proposing. And so we've got a couple of documents attached there. But basically, in a nutshell, it would allow homeschool students to come and participate in any UIL type activity. And so I think that what we saw this year with our hybrid students, where you had students at home and then come up here for a UIL activity, did not work well. If you ever wanted to see a research study on it, we got one firsthand. And so, we like to try to be helpful to other groups of kids, but at the same time, there's also the worries or concerns about just the policing of that. If you've got a homeschool student that they start gaming the system, where I'm a great athlete, I'm gonna go move to Robinson because they're gonna let me do this, and I don't really want to go to school. I just want to play football, and I'm going to school in person and I'm scrutinized by drug tests and grades and attendance. You're just sitting at home. Now, granted, there's a national test they have to pass to show grade level, but that's about it. And so there's a lot of, we feel like still too many gaps and different things in the bill that would create concerns. Ricky and Luke in their athletic director meetings, all of the local districts that we compete with have talked about it preliminarily and said no. And in some of the bigger statewide meetings, some of the really big schools have gone to said, if someone chooses to start doing this, we won't play you. Because there's too many chances for cheating and things like that. And so, here at the school, we're big proponents of public school. We made this country great. We believe in public school, not just the extracurriculars. We believe in our academic program, and we want you to come here. We want you to do school here. And so that's, another reason for it as well. But again, we just saw a lot of problems with remote learning this year, hybrid learning, and I think that this could exacerbate that issue as well. But I listed here a litany of different things, enforcement of code of conduct being inconsistent. There's a lot of, if y'all had a chance to read through all that, I feel like that at this time it's not well thought out. So my recommendation would be to, if this gets final approval, signed into law, whatnot, that we will not allow this at GISD.
It's currently on hold. It's not a law yet.
I think it may be governor's desk right now. Let me see if the synopsis has it.
But it's an
It's
option.
in committee. I think it's just about, it may be on Abbott's desk, so. Getting ahead of it. Just so we can formally say what we're doing or not doing.
Good idea.
So my recommendation is that we want you to come to school here, play sports here, play in the band here. So.
What happened to the deal that said you have to live in a district a year before to be eligible?
Yeah, I think that's that's a rule that's been in place where they don't want folks moving for simply athletic reasons. You need to show that you.
Is that going to be in place?
Not to my knowledge, that has not changed. But this opens up the floodgates to where I think if you defaulted and said I'm homeschooled,
Yeah.
it's a moot point.
From what I've read, the bill says if you adopt it and say yes, it's also hands off to those kids. You can't make any rules for them.
So
That's what it looks like to me.
So my question is, a kid living in the event school district, and he's in a school district last year, and he would not be eligible here.
Homeschooled or in the school district?
To be eligible for UIL.
I heard that they have to live in that school district. They cannot, if like for instance
For
right
varsity
now,
level, I believe.
for right
The
now,
homeschool or?
Just right now.
General student, yes.
Just varsity.
That rule, again, like I said.
It's been around for.
changed.
Yeah.
so if they live here, they can't go to the event.
You have to
They
fill
have to be
form,
living in the
and it
residence.
goes to the district.
But if
committee.
you're in you live in one district and you want to play over here, you can't be on varsity for a year.
No, I
Is
don't
that
think,
right?
I don't think that's true. From what I heard, it doesn't matter. You have to live.
Because
Yeah.
I remember a girl going to Crawford, and she made it so that she would be there a year before she would be on the varsity team.
I think that's totally different.
It's changed.
I think for homeschool, that's my
Oh, for
understanding.
homeschool?
Homeschool, I heard this.
Oh, I'm talking about public
Oh,
school.
public school's different here.
Yeah, I'm talking
So
about
what,
public.
then they had, okay.
It's called the PAP form, previous athletic.
I make a motion we approve your recommendation.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Well, thank
President.
you, Mr. Ferguson.
And, well, again, this whole, I mean, this is all the different concerns related to it that we've typed up
I
here.
agree
Just
with you.
Who wants to second that motion? Linda, okay. Anybody else have a question?
I will just tell you that I've had a phone call about it.
I have to.
And the phone call about it was from a person in the district, not to be named, who's reputable. They have kids that are homeschooled. They homeschool them. They make them take a rigorous curriculum. They're kids that make them behave. And they're a very active part of the community. And they've been working with the Homeschool Association lobbying the legislature for this. And they were very much interested in me being for it. But the bill, as the way it's written, gives us no control over the homeschool kids. I can't support that. Now, if they had some criteria for them, like they have to come up and take the STAR, or if they had to come up and take the drug test, all that. I don't think any of that's in there.
We're on an equal plane as to the.
There will be some people in the district that are upset about our vote, but they're the ones that really, really, really would not cheat the system.
And this may be a moot point anyway, if Governor Abbott vetoes it anyway.
I don't think
we'll
he-
be review, we have the opportunity to review it again at a later date, at any time, can't we? We can put it back on the agenda later, because when he signs that, if he signed it into law, then we can review that, can't we? So we have that option?
Our option
Yeah.
as to whether we do it or not?
Yeah,
Well, if we vote tonight not to do it, it would have to be brought up again in a different
yeah,
format or different rules.
yeah,
We could always go, yeah.
that's what I'm saying, that's,
Talk
we're not,
about it later.
he may send it back and they rewrite the thing and submit it again. We don't know what they're gonna do in Austin. So,
And I've seen just to be totally transparent, all the arguments for it, and I can give you an argument against every one of those. That's why I'm in public school, because it made this country great. All of the religious aspects, all those different things, I would argue all of that forever, that kids ought to go to public school, my opinion. But it's a free country. But being in public school, though, I'm going to fight to protect our interests and lobby to get those kids in a good education. Because no matter how brilliant you could be, there's no way I could teach my son next year. Am I going to teach him geometry and English 2 honors and when he gets to senior year, are you going to do calculus and physics? You're going to teach him chemistry and biology and English? No way. There's no way. And so I feel like we've got a good service. But by all means, the folks that want to do it, more power to them. But at the same time, I want to protect the public school, for us to be able to have our constituency here. And like I said, there's a lot of different things on safety and discipline, liability, cost. There's a lot of different downsides to it.
you said you talked to the athletic director and coaches. How about the band and 1-act play and those people? What do they think,
I haven't talked to Jose about it yet, but I can pick his brain too. I feel like that the ones that we're most concerned about were in the athletic realm.
Yeah.
But I think that's where more of the gaming of the system usually occurs. Sure.
Can we just say that make a vote if this to look at it at a later date to see, you know, if they put those things, because I'm gonna say, I hear what you're saying, but I also had a good conversation with someone, and I think they gave me every arguments for. I'm not saying that I agree with those arguments, but I also want to give those kids, because maybe it's not even their parent. I mean, their fault. It's their parents, you know, for whatever reason. But I also understand they do need to be in school. They need to be held accountable as well. So,
Well, we've got a motion.
until we find
We have
out.
got to vote
In a
on it.
second.
Yeah, we've got to vote on this, Calvin, later. I mean, we can talk about it again. if
Okay,
it-
that's cool.
So, Barrett, you've made your recommendation. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank y'all. The next one, Marianne, you want us to look at this, evaluate our current mission statement. Is a good mission statement, but it is kind of lengthy. And so oftentimes mission statements are memorable enough where you can just, off the tip of your tongue, you can just say it. Short, sweet, concise. And so Dr. Willie Clark, many years ago when he was on the school board, came up with what's really our motto, slogan, doing what's best for kids. And we wanted to maybe tonight elevate that to the actual mission statement. And so I don't see any problem with that. I think it's a great saying. It's the saying that we revert to the most during tough decisions, where we have to always say, well, what's best for kids? And so I would recommend going ahead and, after y'all discuss it, adopting doing what's best for kids as the official mission statement, and just retire that lengthier one that we've been reading, and we'll just update all of our posters and go with doing what's best for kids if y'all want to.
So doing what's best for kids.
Sounds good to me.
Any
That's what we're here
comments?
for.
Does anybody want to keep the portal? It's a portal of unlimited opportunities, so on and so forth.
Hey, we worked hard on that.
Yeah, we did. We put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that. And we're just
Took a whole day
tossing
to
it. Yep.
get together. You covered
Sorry.
everything.
Yeah,
But so does this.
so does this. And this is something that everybody can get behind. They remember it. Willie was a great guy.
And it's a good answer if someone
Yeah.
says, why are y'all doing blah, blah, blah? We're doing what's best for the kids. Right?
Right.
Any comments? There's a recommendation? Did you just make a
I recommend that the board adopt do what's best for kids as the official mission statement,
And retired.
and retire the long one.
Did
I'll
you
make a
just raise your hand? Charlie did? Second?
Strategic planning.
Calvin? Any comments? Are we sad that we don't get to read the other one anymore?
We get to read this one. It'll just be real short and sweet.
We can say it all together. Okay, any questions? All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries.
Okay. The next one's real quick, catastrophic leave update. The most recent change we made was back in 2019, where we did the staff a favor, and once the bank hit 500 days, we stopped making current members donate a day, so that way you could just keep it. You know, you didn't have to donate each year. And so as long as we keep that 500-day threshold, we feel like we're in good shape. The only little tiny thing we wanted to go ahead and delete, because we feel like that it can quickly drain the bank, would be covering grandparents. Covering grandparents, if you're a teacher and you've got a grandparent, you know, typically they're going to be in advanced age and sometimes in precarious health, and it can quickly drain if you've got to take time off for every grandparent that's sick, or going to the hospital, things like that. And, you know, we don't want to be callous, but at the same time, we cover kids, we cover parents, you know, those close family members. But grandparents, we would hope that your parent, the son or daughter of the sick person, would be, you know, carrying the burden for most of their health care. So we would just ask that we could strike the word grandparent as one of the covered areas just because it could quickly deplete the bank. So my official recommendation is that catastrophic leave no longer cover illness or injury related to grandparents, again, because it could quickly deplete the whole thing. I even highlighted it where we would just strike through that one word.
How many of our staff contribute?
Daryl, you know off the top of your head about how many are in the catastrophic leave bank? I think a lot.
Most everybody.
Yeah, most everybody. We
I can't tell you how much
Yeah.
this would
Yeah.
affect without doing some research.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of how many
Right.
days we're taking for
Yeah.
grandparents.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, I was thinking of the whole 322. I mean,
Yeah, it's pretty
That-
substantial.
most of
number
them?
Participation.
So if you don't have to contribute, let's see, would have to contribute if it drops below 500.
Mhm.
But if you don't, would someone who hasn't contributed at all, who's not contributing that year because we're over 500
Yeah.
days, couldn't get in it?
Now you have to do the additional contribution to get in.
Right.
And
So
then-
they could start that year when the other people aren't contributing?
They can start any year they want in the summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They can start at any time. And sadly, oftentimes it takes someone getting burned
Mhm.
and thinking, oh man, I wish I had joined that catastrophic leave bank, to where then they'll finally bite the bullet the next year and donate the day.
Okay. Well, it's a wonderful.
It is. It's a great insurance to have because I sign off on all of them, and typically it's not, it'll be an emergency gallbladder surgery or emergency, some sort of ailment that doesn't take a lot of time, but boy, you're sure glad that you had it because it can quickly take your leave up.
Can I ask, I don't know if this pertained to a particular family that I won't name, but both of them had COVID and their kids had COVID. Did it drain their bank? You know who the
I don't think that anything in particular this year drained it. Because we had the separate COVID leave,
Yeah.
COVID didn't impact this. Now, if we didn't have the COVID leave, yeah, this might have gotten, if we had allowed this to cover COVID, it would have eaten it up. And so, but we do feel like it's appropriate to cover grandchildren because every once in a while we have a teacher or staff member that they're raising their grandchildren. Yeah.
Okay, so,
So I've made my recommendation that the catastrophic leave no longer cover illness or injury related to grandparents. Again, because it would deplete it quickly.
is there a motion for that recommendation? Calvin, second? Linda? Thank you. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your hand, please. Thank you. Motion carries. All right, personnel.
Okay, a couple personnel things. So first thing, there's several items here combined in the personnel updates and requests. For many years, this intermediate campus had 2 assistant principals, 2 counselors, lots of staff. And so we decided we were going to try to reduce some of that to eliminate costs. And so we eliminated one of the assistant principal positions, and currently we have one of the counselors left. And so in talking to Bridget, Miss Register, she said, if I had my choice, I'd rather have an assistant principal than a counselor for that. And so I told her that I would ask the board if we could switch it to where make that counselor, instead of having 2 counselors, you just have 1 and have 2 assistant principals. And then that way, she would have the help that she feels like that she needs the most. She just replaced Tessa with a gentleman named Luke Nichols coming from the Metroplex area. He's an assistant principal in Denton, and his family's relocating here. That hiring committee interviewed 3 external, 3 internal, and if approved tonight, we would select Casey Melton, who was right there with Luke as far as the top 2 candidates. And so Casey's been the IC at the elementary for many years, and she's also a testing guru, a curriculum guru, and it fills a gap that Bridget would like to have filled. And so that's kind of the background on that. Also, with Cindy's retirement, we needed to select the principal for the junior high campus. At the last board meeting, we had the I think the entire faculty and staff came and lined and had 2 or 3 of them speak on behalf of Ms. Penrod being the next principal. And she's been the AP at the campus for the last 2 years and has done a good job filling in, especially at times when Cindy's been ill and couldn't come. And so she and Mr. Herblin have been the admin team, and so by promoting her, we wouldn't need to hire any other assistant principals or anything. We would save money on that, just have 2 administrators, a principal and assistant principal. And then I'll go ahead and throw out the last thing here is that another House bill, 3880, and I don't even know what the status of this one is now, but they were toying with the idea of pushing dyslexia under the SPED umbrella. Boy, that was gaining traction. You know, they kept trying to say, oh, this is going under SPED. Gen Ed testers can't do it anymore. You're going to need a diagnostician to do all your testing. Well, and then like some of these bills, then it gets real quiet. And you don't know, they create this hysteria and then they back off. And so it wouldn't hurt to have a couple of additional diagnosticians or licensed school psychologists. We have added that into the ESSER, so we could look and see. The sad thing is we could post it and may not get any applications. LSSPs and DIACs are very hard to find. We've been down a speech path forever and one just fell into our lap, just like that. It just happenstance, somebody was moving into town and we're so very fortunate, and so, but we'll go months sometimes and not have any applications for these types of positions. So that's kind of the background of all of that. I wanted to chunk it into a couple of recommendations, but so the first one would be recommending hiring a second assistant principal at the intermediate instead of a second counselor. So
Okay, that first.
y'all can discuss that, what you think about that.
Comments?
Personally, I don't think you need 2 assistant principals at the intermediate school. Personally.
Well,
At one time,
You've been-
I will
you know.
massively disagree with you.
Okay,
Yes.
well, then I will listen to the guy that's been there.
I was the principal there 20 years, and without 2 assistants, it would have been an almost impossible job. What is the enrollment for the fall for the projected for intermediate? About 250 a grade level?
It's usually around 660, right?
It's probably about between 625 and 660.
So 200 kids per person.
How much? 665?
Yeah, probably between, so I would say between, off the top of my head, probably around 625 to 650, 660. So yeah, close to somewhere around 215 to 220 a grade level. And you know, it fluctuates. We might have 200, 210, 220. I mean, that's where most of our grade levels are.
In order to do a really thorough job of walkthroughs, evaluations, conferences with parents, ARDS, dyslexia 504 meetings, GT meetings, disciplinary meetings, with me and 2 other assistant principals, our day was absolutely nonstop. And I cannot imagine, and this is just me, a school of 625 kids with 1 counselor. That blows my mind. That school needs 2 counselors and 3 assistants.
2 assistants.
I mean, well, 3 principals and 2
Three principals,
counselors.
So you think, okay. So you're saying that they need,
I don't understand why we've cut a counselor. That's with 600 kids?
So you
That
need
is
help from
insanity. That's my opinion.
so you recommend they need both?
They need both.
And I back him being there most of those years he was there. Well, all of them you were there, I guess.
When I was there, one of them had all of 4th and half of 5th,
Right,
which was nearly 300 kids.
right.
And they're not kids that we have lots and lots of kids on that campus who are really, 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 really needy. A lot of them are low socioeconomic. Some of them have lots of home and health issues. the 504 thing itself is ballooned to just massive numbers.
One thing, Charles, that we do differently since you were there is we did also have 3 social workers now too, which helped take some of the burden.
Well, that's good. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that.
Yeah, we took, and then we also have, we've made an effort to try to get testing off counselors, and that helps too. So they can focus
Casey-
solely.
Casey would
What do you do at the high
help with
school where you have 4 grades opposed to the 3?
As far as counseling,
Well, you got 2 assistant principals and a
3
principal
and 3 counselors.
and 3 counselors. And there's surely a few more kids in high school than there are in intermediate.
Yeah, usually it's a couple hundred more. Yeah.
There's 800.
Usually average about 200 a grade.
Yeah, be another grade.
But I don't know. Yeah, I guess it depends the job's assistant principal. I'm just thinking. I spent my time being the only assistant principal. I was busy
Yeah,
with a lot of stuff.
sure.
This register would probably know our campus as well as anybody.
Well, that's true.
I mean, she's recommended what she recommended.
Well, and yeah, if she had her choice between those 2, that's what she would, what she was wanting. Now, if she was to hear Charles say, "Well, let's give you both," she'd give you a big hug, Charles.
Having 3 social workers.
We've got, we've got Joyce. We've got Joyce Cole and Krista Hitt, and then we also have Kayla Houck, who's our special ed social worker. So there's more people floating around helping the campuses than what we used to have. But yeah, that would be, if we didn't have those folks, that would be a big concern. That in the age of mental health issues, we cut a counselor. But we did that, we were also, at the time that we did it, trying to save some money too. That was a time where fiscally we were tight.
Also, when I was principal, we didn't have the people assigned to be the guides, the curriculum, what do you call them?
Oh, instructional coaches.
Instructional.
Yeah.
We didn't have that.
Yeah. So that helps a lot.
Here's my question though, is this assistant principal going to be going out and taking kids to PE and supervising them, or over here doing this job that could be done by an aide or someone with a lesser salary? Okay.
Did Ms. Richter say why she would prefer one over the other?
She felt like she needed more of the administrative type things, like the testing and the curriculum side, and someone, evaluating teachers from that perspective. So.
I think we need to listen to the person that's there. That's and I don't know, and I don't have near the knowledge or experience of getting
I'm not denying that she did need two assistant principals. I think that's non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Charles is just going one step further and saying,
No, I understand.
Well, that's something that we can talk to Bridget about as the year goes.
yeah. Ask Daryl if the budget will allow for it. So,
Another position.
yeah.
Are we in position, Mr. Fraser?
I haven't seen the latest because they're still working on filling all the holes.
One thing
I've asked, Mackenzie to give me the list of open positions, and I haven't received that yet. So they're still working on that.
What we might do is, if y'all approve the first recommendation on the assistant principal, the second recommendation about the diagnosticians, LSSPs, I might be able to kind of tie that counselor into that. Because what we're basically asking you is to allow us to have some flexibility to post a couple of different professional positions in the hopes of attracting somebody good. And then that way we would get Yancey and all of his ESSER money to pay for it. And of course, like you said, that's only good for 3 or 4 years. So then after that, you've got to be able to wean yourself off of ESSER and be prepared to pay their salary.
Everything will be fixed.
So my first recommendation then is to hire the second assistant principal intermediate.
Is there a motion for that recommendation?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Charles, Linda, you want a second? Okay. Any more questions about the first one? All those in favor, raise your hand.
I'll support.
Motion carries. Thank you.
So like I said, on the second recommendation, we were just, because of that bill, needing some more help on the diagnostician side. That's the special education dyslexia testing. The LSSP, those people could also be like a behavior specialist, like we talked about, for kids that have severe mental, emotional issues and behavioral issues. But a counselor is tightly tied to that. And so basically, what we could do is we could post for all three and just see what we could attract, and then come back to you guys and say, okay, we found some folks that we would fund out of ESSER, not to exceed, I think it was 3 positions Yancey had in there, I believe, under the ESSER grant. And instead of just saying LSSP and diagnostician, we could say counselor as well.
Okay.
So,
That would highly please Mr.
okay.
Are we gonna be willing at 3 years old, bite the bullet if we have to with ESSER?
Right. Yeah,
Good
that's
question to me right now.
How many STAR tests occur on the intermediate campus? Is it still 9?
There's 2 in 6th grade, 3 in 5th, and 3 in 4th.
And is the 5th grade going to go back
It's
to?
gonna cut to 2 to 4th though, because writing's gone away.
Yeah, writing went away.
Oh,
In the current proposal, who would do the testing?
Casey Melton.
Okay.
So there would
So
be
that's a big
seven STAR tests.
7 stores.
And do you do pre-tests as often as we used to do?
We do a benchmark type in February. We should do one
Okay.
early February.
Not 3 times a year like we used to do.
Yeah,
We
you
have
know, put
unit
all of our
assessments.
our unit common assessments, but we do kind of like one.
We used to spend more time on that than we did teaching.
Yeah, we do one big one, February, just to kind of get a gauge to see where we are. And to make some small group instruction.
I like that.
Okay. So that second recommendation, I would just add the word counselor to that. The flexibility to post and hire a combination of diagnostician, LSSP, counselor. Based on availability, then we would work on that. Knowing our luck, we may not get any applications for any of those, and then it's a moot point, you know. But at least we can post them and see, and then we might even preface the hiring of those folks with, "You're good for 3 years."
Based on the pending.
Based on funding, yeah.
Okay, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion?
I move left. I like that wording you put at the end,
Yes.
that 3-year, potential 3-year.
Yeah.
I'd like to include that in the wording of the motion some way or another.
Tara, you want us to go over that? Let's go over
Say that again?
Let's back up a little. You want
Okay.
to do that again?
So I recommend that GISD have the flexibility to post and hire a combination of 1 diagnostician, 1 LSSP, and 1 counselor based on availability and funding. GISD, I'll just leave it at that. Based on availability and funding. ESSER funding. Does that sound okay to you, Jimmy?
Yeah, I want everybody to have all the support they need without struggling to do their job. But at the same time, we're spending taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
And I don't want us to get in the same situation y'all said y'all were in earlier, when things were tight and you had to cut positions or not fill when someone left. I like for us to look at immediate needs and long-term reality, I guess, as far as funding and future needs as well. So I think by doing this, we're balancing that. That's my opinion.
Tara, you good?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jimmy, you made the motion.
Yes.
Who seconded? Calvin? Any more questions? Okay, all those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Okay, library.
At times we name, it's very unusual, we haven't named a lot of things after GISD folks here, but we, a lot of districts, they name big key areas of their district after important people that had a profound impact on the district. And so, as you may recall here, last year or so, we named the high school gym after Sid Pruitt. We've named the football field at McCamey Stadium after Tommy Davidson. And one thing that we wanted to start doing too was naming some things after some more, folks that are maybe currently in the system or recently removed. And so we wanted to honor Cindy. I've got a quick little bio over here, but she grew up in Gatesville, graduated from Gatesville High School in 1985. And she went to school here fairly locally too, MCC, CTC. She did a lot of administrative work. I didn't realize that. She was at a lot of the insurance companies. And TDCJ did a lot of administrative things. And then she went on to Tarleton and worked even there at that campus in the admissions office. And she graduated magna cum laude from Tarleton with a degree in interdisciplinary studies and a minor in English. And then she started subbing. And wanted to get her feet wet with teaching again, and she landed her first official teaching job in 3rd grade, I believe in 1998. I went through her file, and she taught 3rd grade for about 7 years. Then she went to 1st grade for 5 years, and during that time she was working on her master's, got that completed from Tarleton. And then in 2010 she became the assistant principal at Gatesville Junior High under Bobby Cole. And so she's been at the junior high as a leader there for more than a decade. And so in January of 2012, she became the lead principal. And so she's been the lead principal there for almost a decade. And so she's been a real fixture, and the students and staff love her, and I know she loves them in return. And so, her persistence and fight and determination with the cancer that she's been fighting, to come to work every day, when we knew she wasn't feeling well, there'd be times where she'd just have to turn her light out for a little bit because she just felt so bad. And then she'd flick it back on, and I'd walk in there and she'd be bubbly and ready to talk and ready to, and so she bravely fought through some stuff, and so she was very much an example to everyone. And so she really, like I said, exemplified the saying, "Hornet fight never dies." Talk about gumption and constitution and will to work hard. And so I've talked to Cindy about it. She's done about it for about a month, and she was real thankful and grateful. And so I've looked for you guys to approve that tonight so we can start working on signage and get that up. And like the other areas, probably have her picture and a little bio about Cindy. And again, I'm going to come to you guys again in the months to come with some other folks, because we like for folks to be able to enjoy the naming of something after you for a little bit, instead of doing it posthumously. We'd like for people to be able to know, hey, I'm going to have something named after me. And I've already got a restroom picked out for myself. And so, but Cindy, I think she's really appreciative of that when I've talked to her about it, excited about it. And so my recommendation is that we name the Gatesville Junior High School Library, which is a beautiful, newly redone library. It looks fantastic. Nice new space, and rename that the Cindy Venable Library.
I'll make that motion. Who wants a second?
I'll say.
Okay, Calvin. Any
Is she okay with
questions?
the name?
She was.
She didn't want Damon in there.
I could ask her.
That might be nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll get that worked up where it looks nice. Like I said, picture, bio, signage, and I think it'll look good.
Okay, policy update.
We always like to end the meeting on an exciting note. Policy update.
We love those.
Something that would bore the average person to tears. TASB, though, they do a good job for us, keeping us legal. They review this stuff ad nauseum and try to make sure that all of our paperwork looks right and is kosher with newly made legislation and different regulations, and administrative code, and so tonight there was only 2 or 3 things there that actually were local that would change a little bit, and I attached that little just a short synopsis of the 3, and so can't even find them right now. They were inconsequential if you guys had a chance to look at them. Basically, again, it's just we trust TASB, our legal team there, to keep us, like I said, up to date. One was purchasing, facilities construction, and compensation and leave. So Tara, am I looking at the? I guess those are the 3 right there. There they are. So this little 1 to 2 pager gave a short synopsis of each one. So CH Local, that was about the major winter storms earlier this year, having extensive damage, and so that gave TASB recommended a new provision delegating authority to the superintendent to contract for replacement, repair of equipment facilities in the event of a catastrophe for the health and safety of the district. The superintendent must report to the board any contracts made under the delegated authority for the next meeting. So basically, like during the blizzard, if I had to go get the StarTex propane guy to come fix something before it exploded, I'd come to you the next meeting and say, hey, look, we did this so it didn't blow up the school.
Covers it.
Yeah. So it's really no-brainer stuff like that. CV Local, facilities construction, again, again, it's referring back to the delegating that stuff to the superintendent. And then the last one, compensation, benefits, and leave. The events of the past year, COVID, highlighted the need for additional flexibility regarding admin leave, and so they added some more verbiage in there. So a new paragraph directs the superintendent to develop admin regulations to implement policies, and they've got a bunch of things listed there. So my recommendation then would be to approve the local policies as presented per the recommendations by TASB.
Okay. Is there a motion? Linda, second? Jimmy? Any questions? All those in favor, raise your hand, please. Okay, motion carries. All right. We are through and are leaving at 8:23. We're going to go into executive session. Right?
Yeah.
That's where we are.
Brief.
So y'all want to take a 5-minute break?
I want to say thank you for getting rid of that orange cord over there from the camera down, hanging over the picture to the plug.
Yeah, our tech guys did a good job. It's the little things, Jimmy.
Every time I saw that, I thought, what is that?
Made it look pretty cheap.